You know what? You learn more from your losses than you ever learn from your victories. This coach changed my life because he gave me a key that unlocked something I didn't know I had, and that was the ability to partake at a level higher than I was, supposed to be at. And so work with people who are better than you, and you get better a lot faster, right?
Just to be able to allow guys that are kind of feeling like they're stuck and they're kind of going solo to be able to join a team of like-minded individuals that are on that mission to level up in life, for themselves, and to just have that camaraderie aspect. And I think that's a huge aspect of what we're bringing to the table, is to just bring that team atmosphere where everybody is looking to level up together.
Have you been looking for a place where you could go to untap the potential within you? From mental health to the conversations that most guys avoid, where diving into nutrition, gut health, sculpting a physique that you could be proud of is something that is going to be the main focus? Welcome to the Ultimate Man Podcast, where redefining the dad bod and equipping every man with the tools, not just for the body, but for the mind, are our main focus. Whether you're a gym enthusiast, juggling work and family, we've got the keys to balance your longevity and maximum results in the minimal amount of time. So join us, all underdogs, warriors, and seekers of transformation, as we rewrite the script of masculinity. This is the Ultimate Man Podcast, where belief, confidence, and personal evolution takes center stage. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Man Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Lalonde, and I'm here with the man, Coach Aaron Jameson. And today in episode 1, our goal is just like we would want to know if we're listening to a podcast for the first time, who in the hell are we listening to? What do these guys have to offer? Where have they been? What is their story? I would want to know that. Aaron would want to know that. And we think you want to know that too. So today we're going to start by telling you a little bit about our background, where it all began, how it's come to be where it's at today, and why we're so pumped about being here and offering you the most crazy experience, the Ultimate Man Podcast. So without any further ado, Aaron, let's dig into your story, man. Tell us all about it.
All right. Thanks, Coach Lalonde. Glad to be here, rocking and rolling with you, brother. So, dig right into my story. I'll start from the beginning, try to make it kind of short and sweet and cover the highlights because it's a long story. But I started out training with my dad. My dad used to get me up in the mornings, and we do Jack LaLanne workouts. Jack LaLanne was one of the OGs of fitness, man, back in the day. And we'd get up and we'd do, dips, chair dips and pull-ups and just body weight exercises. And I got hooked right away on fitness. So I'm really thankful that my pops got me a good, well-established habit right from the get-go. And I just fell in love with fitness. And that was when I probably started that when I was just a little guy, little tyke. And then when I got into middle school and stuff, I was kind of a chubby little kid. I used to get teased a little bit. I had these little boobs, like little boy boobs, and they used to call me names like Dolly Parton and Buddha boobs. And I just was super self-conscious and shy and a sensitive little guy. So I wouldn't even take my shirt off at the public pool, that type of thing. I just had a lot of self-confidence issues. And then I found working out, and then middle school, some of my buddies started, hitting the weights a little bit and doing some push-ups. And I started doing that a little bit. And my body started just, transforming pretty quickly. I was kind of, a little genetically gifted in that area. And I just started seeing some quick results. And I'm like, damn, I'm feeling my mojo already. Just started feeling more confident. And then it's just a game changer. And that's part of my passion of wanting to help people just develop that self-confidence within themselves by transforming their physique. And that's a big part of it.
Wicked.
Yeah. So
I love that you had that part where, there was kind of that inspiration. Your dad was actually a big influence on you. I think that's important. We'll dive more into, the father figure stuff as our episodes go on, because again, we're talking to the men here, and a lot of times we cover subjects and things that are a little bit sensitive. They might get emotional. So, Aaron and I are going to deliver it in the most emotional and real way. So just keep going on that, brother. But I'm glad that you mentioned that it was an influence from your dad that kind of got things started in the bodybuilding world and Jack LaLanne. That's cool.
Yeah, totally. And my dad's name was Jack too. Yeah. So then I kept, doing some bodybuilding in high school and stuff. And then I went through like a little bit of getting bullied type stage too. Nothing like super major, but enough to was just like, again, just kind of a little bit of knock on my ego. And I wanted that respect from my peers. And so I got into like karate and martial arts at a pretty young age too. And that was really, really good for me. I used to just go to sparring all the time and I'd hit the gym, and it was just a really, really good outlet for me. Um, so yeah, got into the martial arts, started feeling good. And then it boosts your self-confidence, especially when you're at that age and you're trying to get the girls and stuff, and you just want to have that you want to look good for your buddies, you want to be able to stick up for yourself and not get pushed around anymore. So that was kind of the whole story with that. And then at the same time though, when I was going through high school, I was kind of, again, because I was kind of so shy and I had some like social anxiety and stuff, I got into drugs. I started hanging around some guys that I kind of looked up to as role models, and they were doing stuff, smoking pot, and then they started doing, lines of crank and stuff like this. So I got into the whole drug scene pretty early as a kid. And it was I wish I wouldn't have, looking back, but it was just kind of the path that I got led down. And for whatever reason, I was just drawn to that. So I got really sucked into that. Went through a couple rehabs even when I was just a young kid, 16, 17, 18. I was in and out of a couple rehabs, kind of in and out of continuation school. And so I I got through that portion of my life, and I cleaned up a little bit, and then I went off to college. I was kind of a gypsy. I like to travel around a lot, so I went to like Santa Cruz. I started learning about nutrition and stuff, got back into my health and fitness, started playing beach volleyball, and just having a good time going to college and stuff. After that, I went to like Lake Tahoe, and was a snowboard instructor for a little bit. Um, then I went off to massage school, probably in my late 20s. I was really into body work and just, physical fitness, body work. And I had already some ailments and stuff just from like training hard and snowboarding and big wrecks, and just kind of an adrenaline junkie, especially when I got off the amphetamines and stuff when I was a kid. I was still always kind of looking for that high. So I would just push myself, whether it was in the gym or on the slopes or whatever, I was always just looking for that adrenaline junkie high. And so my body was a little bit beat up already, and then so I went to massage school to kind of try to like heal myself, and, hook up with some hot girls, because who doesn't want to go to massage school where there's a bunch of hot girls giving you body work and stuff, right? So that was part of the motivation. And then when I was there, I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I was like watching the UFC. The UFC had just kind of started around that time, and I started going to some like competitions in Denver, Colorado. Got into the jiu-jitsu scene, did some competitions, did really well right off the bat, won a couple competitions in that, in grappling, and I just got hooked on that even further in the kind of like the MMA scene. Gonna take a little sip of water here.
Cool, cool. Hey, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a little bit of, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but as Aaron's taking his drink today, we might as well take our drink break. Guys out there, we want to talk nutrition, we want to talk hydration, and we're going to have our drinks, but we also want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by the official drink of the Man Show. Well, it's not actually ready yet because we don't have an official sponsor yet. So if you are out there and you have, one of those beautifully high quality healthy drinks, we would love to have you sponsor our show. This is our plug and our request to the universe to bring us back a little bit. And Aaron's sending a little subliminal right off the top. So that's cool, guys. Have a drink and make sure you stay hydrated. It's really important that we do that throughout the day. Now, Aaron, we're going to go back to your story for a second. I wanted to ask, when you were in that 16, 17, 18 range that you were talking about there, when you got back into, like when you first got into that drug world, again, this is very new to me, not my background, but again, that's why I love our dynamic, because you have a lot of things that I haven't been through, and maybe vice versa. We can give this to our audience. So guys listening, when we talk about that age demographic, were you getting into that drug world and stuff? Was it because of the circle you hung with? Was it the guys around you were just all doing it and you felt that's why I'm going to do it, just to be part of the circle? I don't want to be left out. Or were you more at an age and a point in your life where you're kind of lost and maybe looking for something else, another escape? Or was it you seeking it out for yourself, or was it more of a peer pressure influence? I'd love to kind of get a little background there.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a peer pressure influence. It wasn't anything I like seeked out. It was just kind of like, some of the guys that I was already hanging around. It was kind of a weird dynamic because even a lot of the guys that were jocks at the time were getting into the drug scene at the same time. Not all of them, but a handful of them. So yeah, I was hanging around, this particular crew that was just, the studs of the school, pretty much, and they were just crushing it on the football field and in the wrestling room. And that was just kind of that's what we did on the weekend. We just went out and partied, and starts off as drinking and smoking, then it turns into some other hard stuff down the road.
Right. Right. No, that's cool. I was curious because, again, a lot of people get drawn into the peer pressure. And at that age, we're very influenced, easily influenced. We're kind of looking for the next thing. You recently did a little video on your own Facebook and things like that, your own YouTube channel, where you were talking about some of the things you saw in the gym amongst the guys in that age demographic. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But I absolutely love that you've been there. You've seen that. You've been through it. Now you're the old guy giving back the information, going, "Hey kids, before it's too late, don't even start." Right?
Yeah.
That's friggin' awesome, man. I love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to keep going on wherever your story took us next.
Yeah. So let's see. Got into the MMA and the jiu-jitsu and stuff in Colorado. Then I moved up to Maui for a little bit, again, just part of my gypsy nature. And I was doing some personal training there at 24 Hour Fitness, doing some massage therapy and some like poolside spa massage therapy. It was just kind of a fun little venture for me there in Maui. Then I came back home to my hometown here and decided to open up my own gym. So I opened up just a little small MMA gym and started throwing some Friday night fights where guys could just come in. And I was training guys in jujitsu and kickboxing and stuff. And then we'd all get together on the weekends, and then I'd, pair people up and have a little fight night type thing. So that was pretty fun. And I had my own gym here in Lakeport where I live now, and for about 10 years, and kind of like a CrossFit-ish style kind of circuit training, full body focused, like, strength and conditioning gym with kind of like a emphasis towards the mixed martial arts, just to, help guys get in better shape for that. I did a little fight promoting at the casinos and stuff around here, just because I like doing those fight nights and stuff. And I was really, even as a little kid, I was just really big into like pitting one thing against the other. Whether I had me and my buddy used to have two little puppies, and we'd pit the puppies against each other and have them like wrestle each other and stuff. Nothing like dog fighting, like major, like vicious or nothing, but just fun stuff. I just always liked the competitive aspect of it. So got into the fight promotions a little bit, started throwing some fights, and that was cool. It wasn't really my gig though. So I got into online personal training, and decided I could probably help more people. Let me back up a little bit. I closed my gym down probably when I was around 40 because I had just had two hip replacements a year apart. I had one hip replacement. Again, just from beating up my body. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was like, training like a competitive athlete. I fought in the cage at one point on pay-per-view for King of the Cage. So I was a competitive professional fighter. So I was doing that, training real hard. But at the same time, I was burning the candle at both ends and still partying like a rock star for a large period of my life. So my body was just beat up, wear and tear on the joints and the cartilage and just so much damage, snowboarding, just living, taking too many big risks basically, and not just thinking you're indestructible, and the body doesn't last forever. So,
You were still chasing that adrenaline rush you talked
yeah,
about earlier too, right?
yeah, 100%, bro. So body just said, no moss, man. We're putting a shutdown on this. So I had the two hip replacements, and that slowed me down. I ended up having some pretty significant, like just mental issues, like just severe anxiety and panic attacks and depression, due to probably just the accumulation of all the stuff that I'd done throughout my whole life. And I just decided it was time for a major change. So I just kind of like shut everything down, did a little soul searching, got into some yoga, went to some ashrams, started really getting into mindset, and I'm just doing some soul searching to figure out, what am I going to do with my life now? Because I can't keep doing the same thing I've been doing and chasing that adrenaline rush forever.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Would
yeah.
That's awesome. Would you say there's an age there that you where you don't chase that adrenaline rush anymore, or do you think that's always a human instinct that we just in some way we need to find a replacement for that adrenaline rush, that habit that used to fulfill, maybe it was the drug or whatever, and you just change your drug of choice no matter what age you are? Do you find that that's still to be true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, depending on the certain individual and their own, nature, but I'm definitely the type of person that's still always chasing that. And I just have to consciously back off. Like when I go into the gym, I've always gone in and just crushed it as hard as I could and taken everything till failure and like emptied the tank. And then now when I'm older here, I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore, but I still want to get my fix. I want to get my fitness fix. It's good to get those endorphins flowing. Like that's not a bad thing. But at the same time, you got to take it down a notch when you get a little bit older so you don't burn out. So yeah, you gotta find some replacements. So I still do my physical fitness, but now I'm transitioning into more mobility and yoga work and kind of balancing that out with the strength training and not taking everything till failure anymore, be giving my central nervous system a little more recovery and time to rejuvenate. So yeah, 100%, man. You gotta be true to your nature and still, if you're adrenaline junkie and that's what you love to do, get her done, but learn how to create that balance at the same time.
That's cool, man. I love that. It's important advice because I think a lot of people still chase it. And again, I don't ever put a limit on age. I think that you're only as old as your habits. And that's a pretty important statement there because I've realized that, if you start to follow a consistent schedule of habits, whether they're good or bad, there's going to be a desire, like there's going to be an outcome to that. And that outcome may or may not be what you desired it to be, but the consistency is what leads you there. So if people see the way you train, like I'm going to tell you this, Aaron, and again, if you've seen any of his videos, this dude is one of the most flexible dudes I've ever seen who has as much muscle mass as he has, right? And I mean, he can literally do the splits jumping off a trampoline in the air. And I mean, like some crazy stuff that I know I can't do. But it's this that I can't do it now because I haven't been training it like Aaron has. It's to give that habit and that consistency. So I love that you're putting your effort now into that flexibility, that mobility. Some of the things that I can guarantee you and I both never ever gave credit to or the amount of quality like attention it deserved when we were younger, right? If you go back to your early days in the gym when you're hitting it hard 100%, were you ever taking the time to stretch and focus on that flexibility?
No, not well. I mean, I did a little bit because only because I was into martial arts at the same time too, and they kind of developed that habit into you. That's part of the, warm up for karate is stretching out your hamstrings so you can kick higher and stuff like that. So actually, yeah, I did develop that habit kind of early on as well.
Cool. Yeah. And I think the martial arts really brought that to you because it's a protocol in that particular art. And I think it's just so great. Kids, I definitely recommend, parents listening to this, get your kids into gymnastics and martial arts. What a great foundation builder to start things out. And it's not about, learning to be a bully, right? I think that was the first thing that ever came our way. And I'm sure you were told the same, Aaron, when we first get into martial arts. It's like, listen, this is not to create you, the ability to go punch people out or use this for bad. It was like immediately told to us, this is for self-defense self-defense. This is for building confidence. It's for, knowing how to handle yourself should you ever need to. But some of the greatest martial artists in the world, I find, are very humble, very quiet individuals, and very well disciplined. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah, yeah, large majority of them.
Mm. Again, you still get your hot heads out there, but
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah,
right,
there's
yeah.
a good mix. It's nice to have that good mix of both. But you're right on point. There's a large portion of them. And those are the guys that I looked up to, growing up and getting into the martial arts world is like, guys like Randy Couture, for instance, was one of my role models. Just a super stud, nice guy, super humble, but just would kick some ass in the cage. So I really resonated with those types of guys.
Absolutely, I agree too. And when I think MMA, because we're going to talk MMA a lot, we're going to talk boxing, we're going to talk fights in general, because Aaron and I both have a fighting background. But Randy Couture is a great one. I think of George St. Pierre. I'm from Canada, so Canadian icon for us, but a very humble individual, and still, I believe in his 40s now, maybe somewhere 40s, 50s, and he's still doing the daily grind of taking care of his health. And I mean, the dude looks amazing. He
Oh
looks
yeah.
incredible, super fit. I believe he could still come back and fight and compete at a reasonably competitive level. And I mean, he still does, I believe, in like some of the grappling tournaments and stuff, which is super impressive. But yeah, you think about those guys that we like, they're very humble individuals, very well disciplined individuals. Anderson Silva, another one that comes to mind for me. But I'm sure you've got a list of five or more on that, on one, at least one hand of the ones that you could really look up to. But we
Yeah.
want that to be, what we're trying to put forward as a message too, is that what we've learned in the martial arts created discipline. And through habits and discipline, you don't need to officially sign up for a martial art to start implementing disciplines and habits, right? So I think that's important as we go back to your story, Aaron, continuing on from where you left off there, is that you started developing newer habits. And what you had learned early on with flexibility and stuff in your training has now become more of the priority than anything else. How's it benefiting you now being this flexible? Like, how's that transfer over to real life? If we're talking to kids who aren't stretching today, kids who aren't working on mobility and just risking injury, what would you say?
Oh, it's huge. It's super huge. I mean, I know there's young guys that are totally inflexible, and it goes it really goes back to your overall capability in life, like everything that you do, whether you're young, middle aged, or old. I have a lot of elderly clients too, and then if you don't work on your flexibility now or at my age or your age, like by the time you get 60, 70, 80, you're getting really stoked up, and it just really decreases the quality of your life when you can't just get out there and do the activities that you absolutely love to do. Like my mom, she's been training with me for 3 years, and she's 91. She just actually had a hip replacement 5 months ago, and she was training with me before that, and she's still training with me again now. She's fully recovered. She's back to like playing in her garden and doing stuff that she loves. She's super active. So I'm really passionate about just helping people to stay capable in their bodies, to be able to do the hobbies that they love. I hurt my own hip again, re-injured it not too long ago, but I was able, because of my experience with strength training and rehabilitation and mobility, to like recover exponentially faster than the majority of other people could, because I know how to do that. And then now I'm back to, doing the things I like to do, playing basketball, playing racquetball, lifting weights. I'm fully functional and capable again. And that just means a lot to me.
Damn, that's cool, man. I love it. That's such an important message. And shout out to Mama Joe, Aaron's mom.
Yeah.
91, you said.
91, kicking butt and taking names, man.
That's where I want to
Full of
be.
spunk.
That's where I want to be, man. That's what we're working towards, right?
Yeah.
Staying healthy in those later years and enjoying it. I think a lot of people wait until retirement going, oh man, I'll finally get to relax when I retire. It's like you're just going to slow down. You're going to, you want to be able to use that retirement, right? And enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, get involved in the programs you can now, get the coaching you can now. I mean, that's awesome to help you in those later years.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
And I see so
So,
many other guys, just real quick, I see so many other guys that are like my age that are just already kind of like decrepit and just like, they can't do the things that they want to do, like whether they just want to go out and play ball with their kids and their boy or something like that. they're just kind of semi-debilitated because they haven't been taking care of themselves. And I just want to give you the message: you can come back from that. You might not know how to do it, but if you find some help, you can really get your body back.
Right. Man, that's such a great message. I think that's the message of the day right there is, you can get it back. It's never too late. I hear that all the time in our world, people coming in asking for personal training help, asking, can you give me a workout? Can you give me a nutrition plan, whatever? They're trying to get back into the game. And a lot of other people just write that off as a possibility and they don't bother, right? They're like, I'm too old for that. It's done. I've had this injury or that injury, or I've been diagnosed with this or that. And they just kind of give up. They call it a day and they accept that they're getting older. They chalk it all up to old age and stop. And I think that's the worst thing we could do. So again, we're going to share our honest opinions with you. It doesn't mean it's science. It doesn't mean that it's backed with a ton of literature. It's just Aaron and I have been in this business for 30 years, and I think it's important to know that just through experience, the hands-on, we've seen people come back from a lot. And in fact, ourselves have come back from quite a bit. So super jacked to be here with you today, man. This is just like the greatest accumulation of everything I've worked for personally to be sitting here with you today and bring the Ultimate Man podcast to life. This is cool.
Likewise, brother. Yeah. And that's, I'll go into my story more in other podcasts, I'm sure, and deep dive into some other aspects that I'd like to explore. But I'm super stoked to hear about your story too, because I know you've got some major transformations and stuff and overcame a lot of injuries and whatnot. And so I'd love to hear what your story is all about, brother.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate the handoff there. The idea that I would call it a weight loss specialist today. And I'm mostly working, in the idea of weight loss and building muscle, but for the sake of longevity and weight loss. So I'll start by telling you the end result. I ended up losing 80 pounds. And that was my weight loss transformation. But how that came to be was an hour-long journey story, which I've shared a few times. So for those of you hearing it for the first time, I'll try to keep it short like Aaron did and summarize the entire journey. But boxing was my outlet. So when I first started, I was 7 years old. I got bullied quite a bit. I was a big kid, man. I don't know if you were, Aaron, when you first, as a toddler. I was way overweight, really overweight when I was a kid. And the pictures, maybe one day we'll post the pictures. I've got some not just baby pictures, but toddler pictures. Absolutely embarrassing, but that's what life's about, right?
Yeah.
Laugh at yourself, because if you can't laugh at yourself, then you're taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
So I was getting bullied a lot for being fat. I wasn't, you talked about not being confident to take your shirt off at the pool. Some of that still carries over today, man. I still feel some of that, even though my body today would be, something that a lot of others would say, man, I'd love to look like you. I still hold that. I think we hold on to a lot of old stories about ourselves. But so the bullying set in early. And what triggered things was two things, really. One of the bullies said to me one time, and he didn't realize he was doing it in goodness, I don't think. He said, dude, you're so fat, but if you turned that into muscle, you'd be huge. And I was like, I don't know the first thing about weight training, but I think that's how you get, muscle, right? Like that was my early thought. So if I could get into weight training, well, that wasn't really available to a kid. We didn't have a gym. I came from a little town of 1,200 people. So, we're talking a small little dot on the map, right? Place called Hornpain. Anyone from Hornpain, shout out to you today. And so this little town that I was in didn't have much to offer as far as like sport recreation and things like that, unless you were in school programs. There might have been a local gym I was too young to go to. So anyway, my neighbor moved in, part of the CN Railway. They transfer a lot of guys around to work the railway for different cities. So a guy came in from Sarnia, Ontario, and he moved into Hornpain. And he had at one time in his background done some boxing. So he thought in his spare time, might as well open a little boxing thing. And he started teaching it at a local gymnasium that we had. So my neighbor that moved in, this guy running the course, he had a son about my age who went to school, who was also a little bit overweight. And so he convinced me to go try out his dad's class for the first time. So here I was getting bullied and thinking, well, this could be a solution to the bullying. Maybe I'll learn to defend myself, right? But number two, maybe I'll learn to lose some weight. That'd be cool, because then I might stop getting bullied because I'm not overweight anymore. And then, of course, the other thing was I get to hang out with my buddy, which I was going to do anyway, right? So I basically go down to this class and I find out that we're at the wrong time. There's a time for kids under 12 and there's a time for kids over 12, right? And he brought me to the session for the older kids. I wasn't old enough to be, I was 7 years old. So he said, listen, you came at the wrong time. You'll have to come back at another time. There was only a few guys in there that night. So he said, why don't you just do the workout with us? Give it a shot. And what he didn't realize he did for me at that point was this coach changed my life, because he gave me a key that unlocked something I didn't know I had. And that was the ability to partake at a level higher than I was, supposed to be at. And so work with people who are better than you, and you get better a lot faster. Right.
Yeah.
And so he let me work with the 14, 15, 16-year-olds. One of them was my cousin, and he was like 16 at the time. I idolized him, right? And so I just want to chase him around, do what he did, and try to keep up. What happened in the next couple of years, I mean, just unlocked an unlimited amount of potential. I developed very fast in the boxing world, as far as my muscle, my transformation. Like, I was building natural muscle. We're not talking weightlifting, just push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups, things where you use your body weight. Now that today transfers into my training, because body weight training at home is such a bonus, right? Such a great place to start. That's where I started. And so I was building up this natural strength. I was getting faster. I was getting more energy, and I was also losing weight. So I was going back to school, and people were starting to be like, hey, dude looks good, right? So I was building confidence. That was early in the game, man. But anyway, the newspaper showed up at my little boxing club. And our local newspaper was like a big deal, because it's only a town of 1,200 people, right? So they came in and they interviewed me. I'm like, 7, 8 years old, and I'm feeling like, well, what a celebrity, right? Confidence is boosting. So you can see why martial arts and stuff is just a great place to be. And they interviewed me, and they said, what do you want to do with boxing? Where do you see yourself going? And I mean, what a question to ask a kid, right? What kind of limit do kids have? You ask a kid, what do you want for Christmas? A pool, a new car, right? There's no limitation. So I said, I think the biggest thing I could achieve is the Olympics, right? In amateur sport. I'm only a kid, but I understand that the Olympics is a big deal. So I shot it right out there at the newspaper. They wrote it in print for everyone to see. This kid's going to the Olympics, right? So anyway, that became my mission. Started working towards it. And for all the people listening out there, if you want to hear, the underdog story, I think my story is really why today I cheer for the underdog in every opportunity I get. Because as I got to compete 10 years old on, I lost my first 11 fights in a row. Every time I entered the ring, I lost again, and I lost again. And my family began to think, this isn't for you. We're tired of seeing you lose and come home sad, right? And on the 11th time coming home, I wasn't even in the door yet. And they said, did you lose again? Before I even had a chance to tell them, right?
Oh.
And yeah, I had lost again, right? So emotionally, I was defeated. I was done. And this coach had brought me and gave me a chance to work with the better individuals. I thought I should be better by now. And, I've worked with them. Why isn't it? And this is where I've learned that, time, consistency, and everything pays off, right? And so I had on the 11th fight of losing, my mindset was completely devastated. My family no longer believed in me. And this can happen, man. People who, you love, you trust, you respect, they just lose faith in you, and they, you don't get that support. Could be your wife, your spouse, whatever, your kids. But you got to believe in yourself, and to believe that one more try might be the one. So I sign up, we go back, we put me in another fight, right? Fight number 12. And I get to that fight, and there's another coach there who pulls me aside, and he goes, hey kid, I've seen you quite a bit. And he said, you've been on a losing streak. I've seen, like as far as that goes, but he goes, you know what? You learn more from your losses than you ever learn from your victories. And he said, you've had 11 experiences that these other guys haven't had. Every time they get their hand raised, they just celebrate the win. He said, you've got a learning experience. And what he did was, again, that key turned, man, that unlocking of the next level, right? He gave me belief. And he said, one of these days, real soon, your age and your weight are going to catch up. See, the reason I lost those first 11 wasn't that I was a terrible fighter. It was that my age and weight weren't matching up. I was forced to take fights with guys who were bigger and older, because they couldn't find anything for a 10-year-old kid who weighed 125 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? So I was fighting 14-year-olds, and it was within the realm of safety, of course, within the boxing, structure. But I had to, if I wanted to compete, or else it was going to be walkover win after walkover win, which would give me no experience at all. So my coach was allowing these fights to happen for the sake of my development. Same thing he believed in when he put me in with the older kids at the beginning, right? He gave me a chance to grow as long as I didn't get hurt. And I wasn't getting hurt. I was just losing the battle at the end of the judge's decision each time. So that being said, when we went into this 12th fight, I had this new coach's perspective too. Along with my coach's belief, I now had two coaches who believed in me, which is what Aaron and I are for everyone listening to this podcast right now. Two coaches who believe in you. And I went into that fight on fight number 12, and won on a unanimous decision, got my hand raised, and the belief switch flicked. You know, I mean, it just like flipping a light switch, man. It was like, this is it. I can win. Everything changed from there on. And he was right too. My age, my weight, and my experience began to dominate. So from there, I went on to win Golden Gloves championships. I went on to win national championships, provincial titles. I mean, it was all stacking up from 14, 15, 16 years old. And things were going in the most amazing direction. I mean, you're on that high. Now I'm in those teenage years that you were, Aaron, but I didn't have the circle of friends with the drugs. I was literally living inside the boxing gym. Like that was it, man. I gave up school functions. I gave up a lot of things to be inside that gym. My buddies played a lot of road hockey. I loved road hockey growing up, right? And we would play every chance we got, but I had to say no a lot of the times, right? School dances and things like that. If there was something we had to be at, if I had to go out of town for a fight, that's where my priority lie, right? And so I had to be training. That was my goal. And it became my drug of choice. Right. Yeah. So for me, that was it. My adrenaline was getting in there and training. I wasn't the kind of guy who was the macho. I didn't want to beat people up. I wasn't that guy. And that may have even held me back in the sport a bit. You know what I mean? Because, the idea that I didn't have that killer instinct was I was not going to finish any fight. I was just out there to outscience the guy. I wanted to win on points all the time. And I was getting really good at playing the game of chess, right? Figuring out the sport, the angles and everything. Man, I was super, super enjoying it. And it was getting to the point now where I got asked to be part of the Canadian national team to go over to Ireland and compete in the Gaelic Games. Now, remember, I told the newspaper I'm going to be at the Olympics. The Gaelic Games is all of the Gaelic communities, a lot of countries represented in there, but not all countries. So it's like a mini Olympics for that area. And man, it was amazing. I ended up getting a bronze medal at this tournament, and I stood on the podium. The flag went up. They played the anthem. I'm like, dude, this is the Olympic feel. Right? I'm literally, 2 podium steps away from my ultimate goal. I'm now on the podium at bronze. I just need to step silver and I need to step gold, and we're there. It is awesome. They came back and they said, congratulations, the whole works. The experience was unreal. I got home. We got the call that said, we've totally scouted you out. We want you to go to that Olympic level, but you can't do it from where you are. Horn Pain, 1,200 people, not enough sparring, not enough high level competition. We need you to get to where you're going to be able to level up. And my coach was definitely had my best interest at heart. And when he said, you know what, you do need a higher level of coaching. You need more experience with those higher level performers. We need you to move. I'm 17 years old in a town of 1,200, and they're asking me to move to a city, right? To the big city where the national training center is. And that was a big switch for me because, again, you're stepping way outside your comfort zone. But results come when you step outside the comfort zone. So I ended up in Sudbury, Ontario, training with the National Training Center and working towards it. And they put it in the Sudbury newspaper, a picture of me hitting the pads and a picture that said 2000 Sydney Olympics. That was the goal. And I was like, dude, it happened again. It was written. The goal was in ink, written down, right?
Yeah.
It's manifestation, man, the power of the universe, right? It's all coming together. And there was a lot of battles along the way. But my confidence was building. It had its times where it got rocked and then, comes back. But it was always the belief that a coach had in me that drove me forward. So now I've got new coaches who believe in me that we're going to take the next level. And here's where the whole story takes place, where it comes to be, the part that some people might relate to. We're early morning training. We're out there. I'm kind of 6:30 in the morning type thing. It's dark. And we're doing sprints on the track, and I dropped down. I feel like a hot nail went through my foot. It was bad, and I couldn't step on it. I tried to get up. I took my shoe off, my sock off. I looked at the bottom of my foot as best I could see. Obviously, it was dark. And in our generation, again, we're talking, going back a few years here, we only had maybe a flip phone at best with like text. You know what I mean? You couldn't. It wasn't a smartphone with it. Barely had a flashlight. I don't even think. So we're taking a look at my foot. And I can't see anything. There's no mark. There's no blood. There's nothing. It turns out I crawl home. We'll get my coach to come pick me up, take me to the hospital. And I have a stress fracture down the center of my foot. And because of that, I'm in a cast and I can't train. And it takes 6 months to get that cast off because it's, they gave me a walking cast at one point. It took a long time to get out of there. Anyone who's suffered an injury and been in a cast for an extended period of time knows exactly what happens. The muscle atrophies. When my cast came off, my shin was the size, like my calf was the size of my shin. It was literally a broomstick. It was almost funny to look at, one big calf on one side and one skinny little calf on the other side. But this is what taught me about muscle atrophy and how, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So
Yeah.
you definitely want to get using it. But when we got that cast off, Aaron, I was 6 months behind in training at the Olympic level. Now, as a fighter, you take that amount of time off while everybody else is getting sharper, getting better. Dude, I got back in the sparring ring with guys that I used to be the better guy that they look to get better from, right? Yeah. Those guys were beating me around the ring. My timing was bad. I couldn't figure out, they'd hit me 3 times before I could figure out what happened. I was like, this is not going to work for us, right? And how long is the journey back going to be? The Olympics are getting closer. It's not going to happen. And so I started to drop into a darker state every time, every sparring. It just kept getting worse to the point where I stopped showing up. And I still relate that now because as a coach with people who are going through training, I know that when you're consistent with your training, you're on fire, you're seeing the weight loss, you're seeing the muscle build, and you take some time off, you get in your own head and you stop showing up for your coaching calls, you stop showing up for your training sessions, and you're heading in that direction, man. I can tell you that because I've been there. And so you got to be consistent. And I was getting further and further away until eventually I just said, I quit. I gave up. And that was it. My whole life, my whole work that I had put into all my commitments and my entire childhood, I gave up for this sport, and it was over. That was it, the end of the line. So this is where I'll try to shorten the story because there's like a whole second half to the story. But at this point here, I spent the next probably 6 years to 7 years completely out of the sport, nothing to do with it. And everything that I did about being healthy and being an athlete, I let it all go. I was eating poorly, everything processed food. It didn't matter. I was getting, the worst of the worst into my system. I ended up ballooning from my weight that I was competing at around 147 to 165 pounds, depending at what point in my career I was there. When I finally finished one of my last fights, in around the 165, 175 range. But then after this, I went to 240 pounds. And for anyone who knows me or is listening, I was 5'7", so not a very tall dude. And you can see where the weight wouldn't go vertically, it would go horizontally, right? And so, man, I looked like the guy that got bullied, but at an adult stage. And I was like, if I stepped outside my house now, I'd get bullied even worse. That was my belief, right? Yeah. And so I became very secluded, man. I stayed at home. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was ashamed and I didn't want to look in the mirror. I didn't want pictures taken of me, right? And I can understand that when clients come in and I don't want to take a picture. I get it. I've been there, right? And so I was at this stage where I really didn't care, man. I felt that I had nothing to offer the world. Now, today sitting here, you'd be like, how could this be the same dude, right? How could this dude believe he has nothing to offer? But at that stage, man, that's where I was, right? I had this belief in my head and it was like a record that kept playing. It was just on repeat, man. And so what changed the game? We'll talk about in the next episode. No, I'm kidding. So what changed the game was there was a small little, those little bulletin boards they put up at convenience stores, and it has a little tear off a phone number. I don't know if you've ever seen those before. Tear off a phone number and give it a call. And what it said was, Coach wanted, local boxing club, work with the kids, share your experience, whatever, right? And because they only had one coach at the time trying to keep this boxing club open. And dude, I was like, not about it. I didn't realize that I had the ability to be a coach. I was an old fighter, right? And my brother-in-law at the time, he pulled the number off and he's like, you need this. You need to take this, man. Those kids need your experience. And that changed the game. Somebody believed in me, man. That's 3 coaches now, right? Who believed in me. So I took this little piece of paper. I called the number. The dude said, come on out, right? That'd be awesome. So I went to the location. It was a local arena. Went to the boxing club. There was probably 10 to 12 kids in there. They're all running around. It was chaos, right? No organization. They're all just doing their own thing. Everybody's training. And I was used to a pretty structured routine because, I'd been to national level. I'd seen national training camps, the whole works. So I knew what structure looked like and they had none. So I thought I could offer something, right? But when I walked in the door, here's the coolest thing that happened, Aaron. Everything that I ever worked for in my amateur career came into one moment that I didn't realize was going to happen. The coach who was there, he knew who I was. He knew what I had accomplished. And he stopped the class the moment I walked in. And he's like, holy shit. He's like, stop. And he sat everybody down. He said, I want you guys to meet, Lawrence Lalonde. This guy's been, and he started ranking off things I've achieved. And I had no idea that he knew who I even was. Right. And so he edified me to the point where the kids were like, this guy's a god. And I was like, I'm no God. I'm like 240 pounds. I didn't, and so these kids had a belief in me and they saw through where I was. They saw through it, man. And I'll tell you, when you got people who believe in you, that's your why. It's more than anything you could possibly feel, because now you got an emotional attachment to what you're doing. And I was like, I will be here every night of the week if you guys want to be here, as long as you kids need me. I'll be there. And it gave me a mission. And so, Aaron, I started showing up every night, 5 nights a week with these kids. And I wasn't intending to be a coach. I just wanted to help. I wanted to share. But then it turned out where that other coach, the reason they had the sign up was they needed help. He couldn't be there all the time. So I found myself in the coaching role quite often. And eventually he just said, dude, I'm going to just give you the club to run. I'm not coming out for a while. I got trips and things. So anyway, I took over as the head coach of this club, and I got certified as a coach, and I got working in that. And it was just boxing, man. I had so much passion for it, and I loved it. During the course of consistency, I lost 80 pounds. The weight just kept coming off, man. It wasn't about a perfect program I was following. It wasn't about nutrition. It was all of it coming into the fact I was so motivated to be there for those kids. And so my why was really passionate. I wanted to see them succeed. And the newspaper shows up to talk about, what are your goals for this club? Can you believe it? They keep showing up, right?
Yeah.
They want my commitment in ink. I was like, it's so important to have a why and write it down, guys. Anyone listening to this podcast, write down your goals, man. And they put them out to the universe. I really believe that there's that like attracts like vibrance, the vibration. And so I tell the newspaper, I want to create Olympic champions as a coach now. I'm turning this script around. I missed my opportunity, but I want to help someone else get it. I've got the knowledge to help them get there. So we start working on, developing, and we developed some champions, by the way, too. Not Olympic level champions. I wasn't there long enough because something else happened in the journey. But the consistency that I put in there, we were working really hard. And during the course of my weight loss, the kids were motivating me and saying, hey, coach, and again, you got to remember now, it's like 7 years removed from my last competition. I had gained 80 pounds, lost 80 pounds. I mean, I was so far from competitive boxing. And the kids said, would you ever fight again? Would you ever step back in, coach? We'd love to see you fight. I had really no old footage because I came from like the days of VHS recorder, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have anyone could just snap a flip, get a smartphone out and record your fight for you. I mean, we had old VHS tape and there was very little footage. So the kids were like, we want to see you fight. That would be awesome. And so the idea started pondering, it starts welling up and you're kind of like, do I, don't I, and you doubt yourself, but you also know, hey, I've overcome a lot. And so the Rocky story is where I related completely to Rocky 1. When he came in as the underdog, he was expected to be beaten by Apollo, right? And anyone who loves Rocky, you can relate to this and understand that his goal wasn't to win. It wasn't to be the world champion or take the title from Apollo. It was to go the distance. And that's when the theme song became, going the distance, right? And I was like, that's my goal, man. If I fight again, I just want to be able to say I could go the distance. And I took that with me, went back in, and we got me a fight. We sign up that I'm going to compete on the next fight thing. It's at a casino in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And they bring in, and this is the craziest part, Aaron. They bring in the number 2 Olympic ranked fighter. He's the backup to go to the Olympics should the gold medal guy or their top guy fall out.
Wow.
Dude, my original goal when I was signed up in the newspaper, when I wrote in the newspaper was I'm going to go to the Olympics. Well, this isn't the Olympics. There won't be a podium, but I'm fighting their best. I'm fighting the Olympic number 2 ranked. This is kind of an Olympic fight.
Yeah.
Like, if this is the last time I fight, my whole circle, my whole journey is complete. And all I got to do is go the distance. It's a 5-rounder. They put us in the main event. I come in with the Canadian flag on my back. Like, I'm going to get a bit emotional talking about it.
Sure.
Kids, right? The kids are all with me, man. Super, super fucking pumped. And it's a moment of glory. And we haven't even hit the ring yet. I'm just on this, like, this is everything I've ever worked for. It came back and it found me. We step in there and it goes 5 rounds. We make it to the end and I lose on a decision, right? And to this guy who's been consistent. I mean, remember I said earlier, like after 6 months off, I thought there's no way I can keep up and compete. I've been off for 6 years now, coming back in and using my experience and this new weight loss motivation. I was a brand new man with a whole new mission, and it was to go the distance. And I did, man. And so at the end, he gets his hand raised and I raise my hands, because I just won something that like the world had put against me. Like there's no way that I could have done that, and I did. So I believe now that there's no limit on what you can achieve. And you said this too, Aaron. It doesn't matter what age. It doesn't matter where you're at. There's never a bad time to start. Today is the best time to start. And you can always have, everything you've ever been chasing come back around. You just got to believe in it again as it starts to present itself. And man, that was a moment of glory. Now, that was like the highlight of the whole boxing career for me. And I absolutely love the sport, and I'm grateful for everything it ever gave me. And then I decided, now that I've lost all this weight, I got to build some muscle. I've never been in a gym before, but now I'm old enough to go. So it's just like you kind of what your dad was your inspiration to get training stuff. I had no weightlifting inspiration at all. I started looking through Flex magazines and bodybuilding magazines, and I'm seeing all these jacked dudes. They're huge. And I think back to that bully who said to me, if you ever got huge, dude, you're fat, but you'd be huge. Well, now I'm skinny. I'm actually too small. And people are saying, you're really skinny. I've lost a lot of weight. So I had to realize I got to build some muscle. And my mission became to learn and study on how to become more muscular and build lean muscle. And that's when I fell in love with the gym and the working out and the weight training, resistance training. And of course, all these years later, studying it, I was now starting to build muscle. My physique was looking way better. And people were coming up and going, hey, can you show me or teach me how you did that? Could you train me on the side? And I was like, I'm not licensed to do that. So let me go get some courses behind me. And again, from that point on, man, every year I take more courses to upgrade and try to learn more about what I do. And, we really get good at what we're doing in this journey. But I want to be able to give people the best information. So now I've had hundreds of clients later, transformations, mostly weight loss, but with the aspect of building lean muscle. So the lean muscle being the catalyst between that and the weight loss, right? And so I'm completely proud of how far I've come in this story, but I want to tell you, not to impress you, but to impress upon you that anything's possible. You've got to be consistent and just really set a passionate why that, comes from the heart, man. If you start to really feel it, right? Connect with it emotionally and just let it drive you. So now I ended up in a gym and I was working as a personal trainer. I moved to gym manager, club manager, personal trainer manager. And I had at one point, one club, it was, I think, 18 personal trainers and 3 kinesiologists that I managed. But it showed me the management side of it all. And I wasn't enjoying it because I wasn't hands-on. Wasn't getting to be the trainer, right? And I wanted to get back in there and be the trainer. So I ended up going to some small club, some small studio personal training places. And I worked there for a while, just kind of building up the chops, and working with more people. So I was getting the experience. And I think that looking back, the book work, the knowledge can't even compete with the experience. And I think that's part of the reason I'm so excited to work with you too, Aaron, is the experience you've been through, man, your story and your journey. And when you apply this, you learn what works and what doesn't work, what to avoid and what to strive for, because you speed up the process when you have that experience. What pitfalls to avoid. So now I want to bring that to, I'm leaving the gym world, and the COVID stuff hit in 2020, and the whole shutdown of everything. The gyms began closing, and due to those protocols and stuff, I was out of work quite frequently. So I decided this is the time to move to online training, because everybody's at home. Right? People are going to be at home. Home equipment was selling out across the board, right? Amazon had no weights for sale. You couldn't get any bands or anything. It was like completely sold out. So I knew that people were in need of how to train at home, how to be effective. And remember, I said body weight is a great first step, and then equipment can come second once you learn the movement patterns. And so I made that my philosophy. And in the last 3 years, we have been, as an at-home training company, that's kind of my niche market, is the at-home model of training. And again, I don't have a big gym. I have little, dumbbells, bands, and body weight to work with. I've maximized that for the last 3 years, maintained my figure, seen, nutrition plays a major role, and putting it all together into the system that makes me so excited today to be recognized as one of the best in the industry in our area at home workout. And I think that that's, where things are at for me at the end of the story now, is taking that whole story and bringing it back in passionately to delivering it as, this is what I can offer the world. And there's no better way to do it than bringing it through a podcast right now and joining forces with a guy that completes the other side of the spectrum for me, some of the world that I didn't grow up or see. That's what makes me so excited about it. So, dude, that's my story. And I hope that it inspires some individuals out there, and of course, getting to know each other better.
Yeah, guaranteed. That is definitely going to inspire some brothers, brother. Talk about frickin' perseverance, man. I think one of the theme songs for our new podcast should be "We get knocked down, but we get up again." He never
Yeah.
gonna keep us down.
That's so true, man. And again, cheering for the underdog. I don't know how many people out there listening right now are, the bandwagon or taking the champion, approach, and like whoever's winning, I'm on board with that. But I've always been the underdog, man. I'll cheer for the dude where the odds are stacked against them. I just think there's a greater story in that. So if you're, this has become my motto, by the way, and if anyone listening wants to write this down, is you never lose. You either win or you learn. That's it. And every learning experience gives you a chance to better yourself so that you can win more frequently, right? So
Yeah.
victory is just the evidence that you've learned from those losses. That's all. And that way they're never losses, they're learning experiences. So cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. So many good lessons just within that story right there. Just, having your coaches, people that believe in you, writing it down, putting it in print, having that intention and that, goal to strive for and having others believe in you. Good stuff, man.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that that's something that we've both experienced. Now, in your journey, Aaron, with coaching, have you had one coach or have you had multiple coaches in your journey?
Multiple coaches. Yeah. And you mean in regards to the fitness journeys and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you think back, like your dad may have been your first coach in the bodybuilding world. Like he took you through
Yeah.
the gym, showed you around, right? How many times have you had that coach or that leader to kind of make sure you're not messing up in what you're doing, right? Martial arts wise, how many coaches did you incur there? Would you say more than five coaches in your lifetime?
Probably about, let's see, probably about five-ish,
Okay.
total like high level coaches. Yeah, my first one in well, obviously like wrestling coaches in high school. My first martial arts instructor, Mr. Langston, here in my small hometown. And then my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor in Colorado when I first started, BJJ, David Terrell at NorCal Fighting Alliance, who's one of the top in the world. So like, yeah, probably good on one hand of just like really top-notch coaches.
Nice. That's cool. I think that the correlation there is that you can see that we've both come to be where we're at because we had great coaches along the way. And that's why we want to be great coaches, right? We idolize these people. We didn't maybe even realize at the time how much we idolize them, but without them, we wouldn't be where we are, right?
Yeah,
So that just passionately drives me, man. And I sat down one time and I did a drill where it was kind of defining your why you do what you do. And it asks you to dig deeper, 7 levels deep. So it asks you why you want what you want. And then asks you again, why do you want that? And then again, why do you want that? And it keeps digging deeper. And when I got to the bottom, man, I was in tears emotionally about this because I had finally dug down 7 levels deep to find out why I really want whatever I put at the surface, that first answer, right? And it
yeah,
got down to because I had a coach who changed my life. And that's why I want to be a coach. That was literally the game changer for me. And it started at a very early age. I think that as parents listening to this podcast, dads out there, and if we've got moms listening too, we welcome you. You have such an impact on your kids that you may not even realize. If you focus on you, get fit, get healthy, and don't feel guilty about that because they're looking up to you, they're watching you. And my greatest influence in the beginning was my first coach. It changed my life. And so passionately, that's why we do what we do, man. I really think at the heart of it all, that's what makes us really want to help people.
yeah. That's a great exercise too. If you guys listening, if you could just figure out what your why is, and like Lawrence said, like just what is my why, and then what is your why for that why, and just dig deep, seven layers deep, and that's a phenomenal exercise.
Yeah.
And then that point that you just made really, brings me back to kind of like that video I made the other day about, who are the people that you're role modeling, who are you watching, who are the social media influencers that you're following now, and are they good role models and influences for yourself if you're watching them, or your kids maybe if you're a parent. And you really need to establish who you want to follow and who you want to role model, because man, if you choose the wrong role models, it's gonna lead you down a bad path. And if you choose some good role models, it's a game changer as well. So you really gotta keep that in mind.
That's so cool. Amazing, man. I feel like this is the beginning of a really great long journey for us. Our conversations are going to tackle MMA. It's going to tackle boxing and mixed martial arts. It's going to talk health and nutrition. We're going to cover everything about being the ultimate man. And again, we're not saying that Aaron and I are the ultimate man. We're working towards being the ultimate man ourselves. But there's a list of things that you want to do on a daily basis to be, in alignment with the ultimate man. And that's what we want to do. Redefine the dad bod. We want to bring you back into a proud and confident state, being the best you can be. And there's no man out there, if you're listening right now, there's no man out there that can't do this. All you got to do is, keep listening, man. So, Aaron, thanks for the story today. I love getting to hear, where you came from. I hope that everybody connected with our stories. But I also want to invite everybody here to visit us on the YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a comment down below so that we know how today's episode relates with you. What did you feel? What did you connect with in the episode? We would love that. And then, of course, from the comments, we can interact with you. But even more importantly, we've got a forum that we created, the Ultimate Man Podcast. We have a forum, and you can get in that forum. It's going to be very specific, and it has a lot of detail to it that's going to give you value. So I just want to get a couple things that we've talked about here, because once you're in the forum, Aaron and I are going to use that forum to pull content from. So we're going to, whatever you're asking us for, that's what we're going to build our episodes off of. The topics will be drawn from there. Contest winners will be drawn from the forum. So we're going to be giving out prizes. We're going to be giving out training and free chances to work with us. You're going to be able to get that from the forum. Inside of that form right now, there are workouts, demonstrations, mobility drills, and fight workouts, documents and coaching on sleep, supplements, nutrition guides, mindset training, and everything else. I mean, there's a lot going on in there. This forum is packed with good information, and you have access to it. So we want to see you in the forum. That's where we would like to connect. But Aaron, is there anything else that you feel we want to talk about in episode 1 before we go today?
I'd really just love to mention that, part of the forum that you're mentioning there, and one of the things that really impacted me in my journey of, kind of getting off the rails for certain aspects of my life and then getting back on track again, was having like a mastermind, a group of individuals that I looked up to that were positive role models. And for a while there, I kind of, like, when I closed my gym and I stopped training MMA, I kind of lost that team, and I felt really kind of alone and isolated. And I think that's part of one of my reasons and passion for putting this Ultimate Man podcast and forum and mastermind group together, is to be able to allow guys that are kind of feeling like they're stuck and they're kind of going solo to be able to join a team of like-minded individuals that are on that mission to level up in life, for themselves, and to just have that camaraderie aspect. And I think that's a huge aspect of what we're bringing to the table, is to just bring that team atmosphere where everybody is looking to level up together.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Absolutely. I'm in, man.
Sign me up.
I'm in. That's awesome. So yeah, if you love today's episode, definitely leave us comments below, but don't forget, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any videos that we put out. As we weekly do this podcast, we're looking to come and bring you a new topic each week, and Aaron and I are more than passionate about bringing it to the guys of the world who need it the most. And we don't know your story, but we want to learn about you. Come to the forum, tell us about you, tell us your story, and share your experiences as you go. I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal journey. So like and subscribe to our channel. Turn on the notifications so that when we put out a new video, you don't miss it. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to the forum if you want to join us there and join the team down in the link in the description below.
Excellent. Yes, sir. All right, Aaron, we'll see you next episode, brother.
All right. Thanks, brother. We'll see you soon.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and it helps us grow our channel so we can bring you more great episodes and some really great guests for the future. Also, if you're interested in working with Aaron and I, and you want to gain some information and experience from us, then always reach out in the best way that you can. And that is going to be to get involved in the forum. It's the lowest cost way to do it. You get a chance to mastermind with the entire group of men like yourself who are in it to win it. And that's what we want to get, is a complete community of like-minded individuals who are going to be in there, where Aaron and I can watch your form. We can motivate you. We have a leaderboard you can climb based on your workouts and performances. You actually get access to courses in there for free as part of your membership. There's always going to be more value, and every program we roll out, you're going to have first access to. So we take the questions and the topics for our podcast right from the forum. Gentlemen, there's no better place to be. If I wanted to get involved, this is where I would start. Get into the Ultimate Man Forum, and we will see you on the inside.